Welcome to Nitpicking Nerds, and today it's time for us to tell you how to spend your money.
Which cards are most worth buying in Commander right now?
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds, along with special co-host, the third nerd, Amber, my cat. If you want to support birthdays, Amber, and the Nitpicking Nerds, go to patreon.com. It's the best way to support the channel. Happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today.
Yes, and if you want to support us indirectly, because Patreon is directly, you can use our TCG Player affiliate link. Go there, buy all the Magic cards you were going to buy anyway. And guess what? Just because you started with the link, holy cow, guess what? You get to support the nerds without spending any extra money.
What if they want to sleeve these cards, though? What are they supposed to do?
Well, they can go to dragonshield.com. EU and US links in the description below. Once you're down there, click on one of the links. If you're in the US, the US one. And if you're in the EU one. Use those links to buy the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves. Amber can't get enough of these sleeves, honestly.
So you can't get enough of those chin scratches,
He loves the chin scratchies. But what are we doing today right now, Cherries?
Today, it's time to go over the cards for this month. This is January 2022. We're going to tell you what the cards we think are most worth buying right now at the prices they are at. Now, something we're going to do in the beginning of these videos for this one, and it's going to skip a few months because every 6 months we'll come back to tell you how well we did in the video from 6 months ago. So we just happened to do one 6 months ago.
Coincidence.
Yeah, coincidence. July 7th, we did one, and how good did we do? Well, BZ, tell them. Give them the rundown.
Here's the full list of cards that went up in price. And I will point out that 3 of them went up kind of a lot.
Yes, Altar of Dementia went from $5.50 to $9.50, $4 increase. Toxic Deluge went from $18.50 all the way up to $24. And the biggest win, if you bought all the cards that the Nitpicking Nerds said to buy in that first video, was Deadly Relic. It was $13.50 at the time. It's all the way up to $29 now. This card is an absolute staple.
It more than doubled.
Yes.
And we also have the list of cards that went down and the cards that stayed the same for your viewing pleasure. The biggest loss on our entire list was Mizzix's Mastery, which was originally $8, went down to $6.50. So I guess if you bought a Mizzix's Mastery, you're down $1.50.
$1.50. That's the most you could have lost on any one individual card that we suggested from the first video. So
we did pretty good.
Yes, we did do pretty good. So now let's hop into the new video. What are January 2022? What do the nerds think you should be buying?
Well, like you mentioned at the beginning, we are going to refresh and allow for repeats after 6 months has passed, because that's a big jump in price time. A lot of things are going to change, so we're going to rehash 2 of the ones we got to first. Bolas Citadel is the first one.
Yes, Bolas Citadel is currently $5. Now, when we told you about it 6 months ago, it was $7. Get these right now. The $5 ones are the cool retro frame border for
promos.
What is it? For the promos for playing at your local game store. $5 is so good for a Bolas Citadel that is going to be a staple of this format for years to come. I can't imagine it won't.
For centuries. We had this card on the list, and it actually went down, and it's like, oh, man, you didn't have to buy it back then. But now that it's lower, we're recommending it even more. It's even more worth buying. This card is one of the best cards in the format, period. It is a dominating mid-range value/combo card. Any deck can play it. I think $5 is a steal for Bolas Citadel.
Absolutely. Buy a bunch of Bolas Citadels.
Amber thinks so, too.
Yes. Another one, Teferi Master of Time. It is $7.50 now. It went down. It was $9.50 when we talked about it 6 months ago. It's all the way down to $7.50 again. Just super worth buying. This is one of the best Planeswalkers in the format. Top, 5.
I think it's definitely top 5. It's one of the ones that sort of, is so good that it surpasses being a Planeswalker, which is usually a pretty crappy downside for any given card to have. And I'm super happy whenever I see this card on the board, and I'm super depressed whenever my opponents have one, because it's like, okay, we have basically a turn and a half as a table to kill this thing, or the game's over.
Yeah, because it's just going to double time walk. And it doesn't necessarily in the game, but it certainly takes you from this position of hey, I have a Planeswalker, to a position of, hey, I'm about to time stretch.
Well, you either, after Teferi Ultimates, you either go, how do I lose? Or the game's over.
Yeah.
Or you're either being like, well, how do I lose from here? Or I win from here. Now we're going to get into some new territory. Number 3 here, we got Swiftfoot Boots. Swiftfoot Boots and Lightning Greaves used to be super expensive because they were the same effect, and people desperately wanted haste, but as more reprints came and more abilities to give haste came out, they kind of went down. Swiftfoot Boots is only $1.50.
Yes, Swiftfoot Boots, like a few other cards on this list that we're going to get to, have been reprinted in the year 2021 a lot. They got very many reprints into precons. And becoming precon cards has driven their price way down. This was up near $5, $6, $7, and it's just steadily throughout the year, whoop, all the way down to $1.50. If you need a Swiftfoot Boots for a deck, now is the time. Get the Swiftfoot Boots right now.
Especially on a budget. I mean, this is a slam dunk. Yeah, we can fit this card into $50 budgets. I think I just did that. It's in one of my future Shuffle Scuffle decks, and the budget was $50, and I'm like, wow, I get to play Swiftfoot Boots.
Yep, and that was not true a year ago, so I would suggest getting Boots now.
Not every deck wants it, though.
If you're looking to throw around a little bit more money, these next two suggestions are for you. Demonic Tutor, currently $33. Demonic Tutor's insane. If you're talking about power, if you have a deck that, say you have a secret commander deck that wants to make sure it's doing one thing always, perfect. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the most powerful card. You just want to find certain things. This card is, again, what is this? This got to be a top 5 black card in the whole format. This card's insane.
Yeah, but why pick it up now as opposed to just anytime?
Well, because Demonic Tutor is one of those cards that has been up in the $50, $60 range before, and depending on when we get our next reprint, which we never know when that's going to be, could be this year, could be for a whole another year. And if it comes back to January next year, it will not be $33 if it does not get reprinted in this year.
Right, and it's not like, when it gets reprinted, who knows in what form? So a reprint might not take the price too much to where, I don't even feel that bad if I buy Demonic Tutor for $33 and it drops down to $25. Like, whatever, I got one of the best cards in the format. It wasn't worth it because next year it's going to be $53 if we don't have a reprint.
Exactly. So it's definitely worth buying at $33. For power level and for the fact that this could easily just go up at any point in time. Like I said, if this doesn't see a reprint next year, it's going to be $50. I would almost guarantee it.
How about this one? Speaking of guarantees, will go up and won't see a reprint in the next year. It's the Enemy Fetchlands, which just got printed in MH2. They range from $17 to $27, which is like borderline record lows for all of them. I think they're just now starting to creep up the tiniest bit since the MH2 hype died down, but these are probably the cheapest you'll ever get Fetchlands in your life.
Yeah, so $17 on the low end is the Marsh Flats, and on the high end, we're sitting with Scolding Tyrant. I can't remember if it's Scolding Tyrant or Misty Rainforest. One of those two is the one that's up at $27. You just want to get these now. They're bottomed out. These are absolutely as low as they're getting. This is obviously only the enemy cycle, the ones that were reprinted in MH2, but I would suggest getting them now. 17 for a Fetchland is just the only time I can remember them being that low was when Zendikar was out.
When no one really was like, what do these do? People were kind of still testing them. Also, Misty and Skull and Turn easily commanded prices that were like up against or above $100 before.
We were talking about, I remember 70, 80 easily for Scolding Tyrants.
Yeah.
They were up there. And obviously, we have they're still technically in print. I think that MH2 is a set you can still actively get in a lot of places. So they're a decent price. And they're going to stay that price for a little bit until this starts getting out of print. And as soon as that happens, obviously, everybody starts holding their fetch lands for their decks.
And they're the best lands, and they're just the best mana-producing lands in Commander. They are always rainbow lands, no matter what. Your deck can play 1,000 of them. At the minimum you can play is 4.
It's funny. They're not the best mana-producing lands because technically they don't produce mana.
Mana fix it.
They're the best mana-fixing lands in the whole format, and it's not remotely close.
No, yeah, fetch lands are insanely powerful, so if you ever think you'll ever want any, now's the time to get them. You'll thank yourself later.
Yeah, and also, well, if you're feeling a little cheaper, but you really want to get some lands for your Commander decks, Enemy Pain lands are really, really cheap. They've been cheap for a while, and they get reprints in precons all the time. 50 cents to $1.20. A rare land is not going to go much lower than 50 cents. So, you should just get them right now. If they ever decide not to be reprinting these all the time, they're just going to start creeping back up slowly. But at this price, if they stay 50 cents forever, this is the price to get it at. It's not. I would be shocked if one of these went below 50 cents.
Yeah, this isn't speculate and snipe cards before they go up. It's like these are some of the best cards you can get in Commander for their prices. Like, I don't care if an Enemy Pain land goes up to $1 or goes down to 5 cents. At 50 cents, it's a steal because these lands in your 2 and 3 color decks, they're in the final, most souped up version of your deck because they're just some of the best mana fixes you get. They're untapped duels that don't even deal damage to you unless you absolutely need the color. They do it all. They're perfect. And at $1 or around $1, absolute steal. I want to get them just to have them because it is so worth it at this price. Not because I'm going to break the market and have it spike.
Yeah, Painlands are very, very good. And you can see on the other side, the enemy Painlands have seen a ton of printings at this point, even in precons. But on the other side of the coin, we have the allied Painlands, and they're not seeing reprints, and they're worth a ton of money.
They're all climbing up to $10 or more, and they have reprints.
Attica Waste, I think it's like only real reprint. Its last one was like 10th edition.
Right.
Attica Waste is not getting reprinted.
The next one, number 7, is very, very good and sees a butt ton of play in decks that want to sacrifice their own creatures. It's Zulaport Cutthroat. He's sitting at $1.20, and I think this is on here because it is comparable to Blood Artist. They're both can be better in certain situations. If you're slamming a board wipe, you'd rather have a Blood Artist. But if you're aggressively churning through your creatures and replaying things, you want Zulaport Cutthroat because it deals more damage.
Yeah, exactly. So these two being super comparable is why this one's on here. Blood Artist is up at $4, and rightfully so. That card is very good in Commander. If I can get a Blood Artist effect, which I can, for $1.20, I'm in. Zulaport Cutthroat is awesome, and this card is one I would take it for $1.20. I would take it for anything lower, and I'd take it for anything up to $5. The card is incredibly good in any Aristocrats type deck, graveyard strategies, anything that's got a ton of creatures that are going to be dying on your side.
Following that, we have Reanimate. It's one of the best black spells, period, in Magic, in Commander, whatever, best 1-mana things to do. Reanimate's anything you want, you lose life. It's flavor text. You start with 40. There's no scenario, really, in the early game where you're not going to have enough. So any deck that's looking to actively mill itself, or even just, hey, creature die, that's really good. I want it. It's any graveyard. This card is only $11, and it's one of the best, cheapest effects you could ever get.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple. Reanimate is, like you said, one of the best cards, black cards, ever printed in Magic the Gathering's history. This will most likely, for a long time, be the best reanimation effect. In fact, since it's been printed, it has been the best reanimation effect. From that point, I can't remember exactly what set it came out.
At least a decade.
It's been for so long. It might be closer to 2 decades. It's been that long.
I don't think they're ever even going to touch this level of design for bringing something back again. I don't think they will. And so this is top dog. This price I'm expecting to pay in my head, going in blind, not knowing, for this card is way higher than $11. So if I'm at 11, I'm thinking, great, let's snag it before more people want it.
Yeah, I mean, the card's amazing. If you have a graveyard-centric deck, you absolutely want Reanimate. And that's saying something because we say this all the time. Our graveyard creature-centric decks, we don't want a lot of spells. Guess what? Reanimate is so good, it's one of the spells. If we're playing 10 non-creature spells in our, our Marin list, Reanimate is almost always going to be one of them.
Yeah, it's so good that it makes up for not being a creature in your creature deck. Not many cards can say that.
Moving on, we have Utopia Sprawl. It's around $5 currently because it got a nice reprint in the Gallia Precon. This is an awesome card. It's 1 mana ramp. It's an enchantment. It can be removed, but it works right away. The effect has haste as long as you're not playing it on turn 1. You're almost always going to be able to tap a land to put it on a different land and then have it produce mana right away. Now, it's absolutely worth it for $5, and I think the card is in one of those things that is becoming more played, but it was an underexplored thing in Commander for a long time. And so if it's worth it for $5, Wild Growth, which is an extremely similar card, is obviously going to be worth it at 30 cents.
Both these cards were massively slept on from the format's inception to like a year and a half ago. They started picking up steam. I probably think they're still some of the most underplayed mana resources in the game. Lands are not interacted with. Lands are kind of like a taboo thing to destroy in Commander. So you can trust your lands to stay in play for the most part, unless you have a Gaia's Cradle or something. But basic lands, they're not going anywhere, which means enchanting them, it's just going to need the same amount of removal as any, mana rock or enchantment, which is also mana disadvantage because these cost 1. Not everyone's going to be thinking or wanting to do that. They don't even look like they're having a crazy impact on the game, but they just sit here behind all the action, generate a ton of mana over time, cost nothing the turn they come out. It's like a mana dork with haste that just won't die.
You add in any way to untap your land, like an Arbor Elf, and all of a sudden, these aren't just, netting you 1 mana. These are netting you a 2nd mana. That is so strong.
So if you're looking for cheap ramp, I challenge you to play these cards and let me know how it is because they are something else.
Yes. Moving to the next one, number 10, the 10th one on our list. This is the number list. Getaxion Pro, $2.50. Now, this card is a card that I go, where do I play this? Why do I play this? Well, the answer can be anywhere, in any blue deck, for any reason you want. If you have prowess triggers, if you literally have prowess triggers, it's worth it. Like, Veyran is pretty much prowess. So it's like, all right, my Veyran deck absolutely wants this. It triggers any of my Magecraft or anything like that.
I want cards in the graveyard. I want Delirium. I want an instant or sorcery in the graveyard. I want to get back. I want to flash things back. This card is not even a card in your deck. It just whoop, cycles itself immediately. You get a ton of useful information. The way we usually play it is the person just reveals their hand to everyone, which is a lot of information. Everyone knows what they're up to. The other way you can play it, which may or may not be better, is just look at their hand. We don't do it because it's time consuming, but you can look at their hand and then just lie about it and be like, oh, they have a board wipe. They're gonna play it unless you attack, and we can attack them and get them out of the game. And that person can be like, no, I don't have one. Damage is done. You already looked.
Yeah,
this card's sick.
Yeah, Getaxion Pro, it's just super strong, and the looking is almost nothing. Like, this card it'd be nearly as good if it just said draw a card for a Ferexian mana. This is a 0 mana spell. Costs you 2 life to cast every single time, but it's even better than that, actually.
You have the option.
Because you have the option. When you're at 2 life, guess what? Just pay the blue now. This card is so good. All that matters is that for no mana, you cycle, you get your storm count up, you trigger prowess, you trigger any amount of Magecraft things that are going on in your deck. You care about the number of instant sorceries you're playing. Oh my god, this card is just... It's so much... It looks like it does nothing, because it doesn't do anything. And that's just the thing. It doesn't matter it doesn't do anything because it costs 0 mana.
Yeah, the fact that a card can cycle is usually like, oh, if you don't need it, you can turn it into something else. But this is, you never have to ever make a decision. There's 0 tension with this card. You can just throw it in a control deck. You can throw it in an aggro deck. It doesn't matter. It's not a card in your deck. It's just free information and then a new card right away. It's not like you could, playing a 7 mana card with cycling 3. It's like, all right, I can use it whenever in the game. It's like, but not early. It's gumming up your hand. Oh, let me just see a new card right away and I don't have to worry about anything. This card is nuts. And it's only $2.50, which I don't even know if we've mentioned yet because we just got rolled in out of the train.
I did mention in the beginning.
I don't know what rolled in on the train means, but we got it. And $2.50 for reducing my entire deck size legally, I'm in.
So my question for you guys is to give me the Urban Dictionary meaning of rolled in on the train.
It sounds mean. Not like what I'm saying. It sounds mean. I didn't.
Rolled in on the train kind of sounds like you just arrived in town.
Yeah, look who just rolled in on the train. I don't know why that sounds mean to me.
It doesn't sound mean.
If that's a thing, please tell us and we'll stop saying it.
Yeah. Next is Swords to Plowshares, which is currently $2. Thank goodness. Swords to Plowshare has become a pre-con card. Woo. Like so many other cards on this list. They've gone down so much because it's being put in pre-cons frequently. Very happy to see this. $2. This is the best spot removal spell for creatures ever printed. That might ever be printed.
It's number 1.
It's so good. And for $2, I'm 100% in. When I build a white deck, this is one of the first removal spells that's going in my deck.
This is one of those cards that I think if you're just getting in or you're bracing yourself to build new decks, I wouldn't buy one of this card. This is a card I could just buy. We buy 6 of. He's like, I'm just going to need it. Stockpile it here while it's $2. Don't ever have to worry about it. I know. 1, 2, and 3 colors, I'm playing a Swords to Plowshares in my white decks. Guaranteed. So worth it at 2. If you didn't know this was so budget and you might be building decks, pick up a couple of them. You won't be sorry.
Yeah, if you're a deck builder, you absolutely want to have the Swords to Plowshares around. I mean, like you said, if you 1 and 2 colors especially, like 1,000%. Like I could see the 3-color deck. Some 3-color decks are white. They don't necessarily need a sword. I could see not building with it. 1 and 2, it's pretty much 100% guaranteed going in. Swords to Plowshare, best spot removal spell in the format, close to?
I think so. And now we're going to move on to one of the best lands in the format. And now lands can go in a lot of decks and a lot of strategies. And I think, in our top 15 lands in the entire format video, this was number 7. I think if I made that list again today, it would be number 5. But it's Ferexian Tower, 1750. It's a colorless land. It just comes in, taps for colorless, no tension there. But you can also sacrifice a creature to just add black to your mana pool. Lands that enter untapped and produce 2 right away. There's 3 in the format, maybe 4 if you want to count Temple of the False God. But these lands, not counting Temple of the False God because it's butts, are the best things you can do. As soon as you're adding 2, it is a ludicrous advantage. And I think 1750 for this card, when I look at the other cards that produce 2 mana for free, oh boy.
Yeah, 1750 is absolutely worth it. I mean, Ferexian Tower is an amazing land in the format. If you want to be able to deal with the colorless land in your deck. So make sure this is in one of your utility slots where you can afford to have colorless mana. So if you're in a 3-color deck, make sure it's one of like your 3 or 4, colorless producing lands. Now, that being said, as soon as you have the slightest amount of disposability in your creature slot.
Doesn't even have to be a lot. You don't have to play Aristocrats to make this card insane.
It doesn't have to be Aristocrats. I just want to have a decent creature count and a decent number of, creatures that I'm willing to throw away. A Dockside Extortionate is something I'm always willing to throw away. It does its thing. Now I'll throw it into my Ferexian Tower and just get 2 mana. Making 2 mana on a land is absolutely bonkers. There's 5 in the whole format that do it.
It's twice as good as the land that taps for 1.
It's literally twice as good.
And what did you pay? The same thing. You just spent your land resource for the turn on it.
And on top of all the things we're saying right now to make it a great land, it's a sack outlet in your land slot. There's this, and there's
High Market.
We didn't put it on this list. I was looking. I don't want to spoil anything. High Market that are free. Just tap it to sacrifice a creature. That's an advantage for a lot of commander decks.
As soon as you play a creature that you want to die, if you have an untapped Ferexian Tower or High Market, let's just say Ferexian Tower, there's nothing to be done. It's going to die. They can try to kill it all they want. It's just wasting their own time. Either at the end step, you pay the cost, which is sacrifice the creature. There's nothing they can do to respond. It's dead as you're trying to make this mana ability happen. Super valuable on a land. It's not like they can destroy your sack outlet because lands aren't going to die as easily.
Yeah, no. I put this card in my Piru deck because, one, Piru just wants to die.
Yeah, Piru doesn't want to be around.
So you want to be sacrificing it. Also, because it's double black. Piru has double black in its casting cost. That works super duper well. And that's just one of a bajillion different situations where this card's amazing.
This card is one of the best cards in the format. Don't sleep on it. You are losing money, I think, the more you wait on buying Ferexian Tower.
Yes. So we'll move on to the next one. A card that actually BZ's very high on. So why don't you start?
Yeah, this has done a Consecrated Sphinx impression. I'm not going to say that it's literally that card, but bear with me. It's Shimmer Dragon, currently $5.50. And I asked for some feedback on some other people who've played against it, because I'm usually the one playing this card. It wants artifact tokens, artifacts, clues, treasures, blood, whatever else. You play it, it's not going to die, because it's going to have hexproof as soon as you play it. And then all of your dummy things, maybe your artifact lands, tokens lying around, they now tap every 2 of them to just draw a card. Can do it right away. You can wait. You can respond to things. You can untap your stuff and do it again. I think this card is like high mega danger mode when it enters the field.
There is a high abundance of, artifact strategies. And if your artifact strategy especially is going wide with, like you said, treasures, clues, all of those type of things, now it just takes it from pretty good to insane. This card, like you said, it's in the decks you play it. It has hexproof. There's almost no situation where you play this and it doesn't have hexproof. And its ability has haste because you just have to tap the artifacts as the cost. And that just means you just play it, draw 2, 3, 4, depending on how many extra artifacts you have.
Build out a board, and I think you're going to bury people as quickly as you could with a Consecrated Sphinx, except that there's a lot of cases where I'd rather have this because it's hexproof, baby. There's nothing they can do about it. They got to wipe the board, and I still get some guaranteed cards, even if they have a removal spell that somehow hits it. On my turn, I'm drawing cards with it, as many as I want with my permanents. So for $5, especially when I'm comparing to the price of some of the other card draw engines, that's nothing. This is sweet, and it's a rarely printed card. When are we going to see Shimmer Dragon again?
We could. Hopefully we see it again because it is starting to creep up in price all the way to $5.
It's going to keep creeping.
I mean, what is this from? It's from the Eldraine pre-con. So that's
Brawl.
That's almost 2 years now we're going on. All right, we have Overwhelming Stampede now, $3.50. This is one of the best overrun effects in the format, if not, excluding Craterhoof, if not the best, excluding Craterhoof. It's literally one of the best ways to just run over your opponent. If you have 6/1/1s, 1/5/5, oh my goodness, guess what? This card just goes completely bonkers. +5/+5 to all my creatures. How are you not dead?
The ceiling is very, very high. If I'm playing Overrun in my deck, I know what I'm getting. It's +3 every time. This is at minimum, if your board is wide, minimum +3. Even if your biggest creature dies in response to this, it still resolves and you still get the next best thing. It doesn't target or any of that stuff. The damage output potential is insanity with this card. It's rivaling Craterhoof. It's not nearly as good, especially because Craterhoof's a creature, but I think this is definitely the second best way to overrun. So if you're looking for another one after your Craterhoof, or if you're just wondering what the best thing to play is because you can't spend $1,000, boom.
Something I think is super interesting and that I think is just true. This card goes in more decks. I don't know if it's necessarily better or worse than Pathbreaker Ibex.
Right.
But Pathbreaker Ibex is obviously a creature for your creature list.
I'll say better.
Regardless of if it's better or not. This is ridiculous amounts cheaper. I don't even know its price. It's right here. It's on the screen.
I think it's over 20, if I had to guess.
It's an expensive Magic card. And this card is at least rival. Like in power, they're like one might be better than the other, but they're both very, very strong. And because Pathbreaker hasn't seen that many reprints, it's just floating up there in price because it is a strong effect.
This card's been printed into the dirt. Pick it up and kill people.
Yeah, you can get a foil one for like nothing because it was at the front of one of the Zendikar decks.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think number 15 here is going to be pretty quick. I was asking Cherries because we were going through our decks trying to see, like, well, what cards, we don't want to recommend cards we don't actually think are worth buying. So let's make sure we have a solid 20 to make the video. And I was like, what do you think of Loyal Warhound? And he's like, it's a pretty good card. I'm like, okay, because we know Knight of the White Orchid is just better and sees a ton of play. Would you also play Loyal Warhound? And he's like, well, let's put Knight of the White Orchid on the list. It's like, this card is 32 cents, actually cheaper than the other option. And he's playing like every heavy white deck.
Yeah, and I'll just say, I think Loyal Warhound at $2 is worth buying. And it's a good card, especially in, 1 and 2 color decks, I think is more specific for Loyal Warhound because the issue is it only gets basic planes. That being said, this is $2, Loyal Warhound.
It's a gumball.
Knight of the White Orchid is 30 cents.
A third of a dollar.
30 cents, I'm in. This card is super good. It gets dual lands. It comes in untapped. This card is great. Pretty much any non-green white deck.
If you start off with a turn 3 Knight of the White Orchid, you're living the dream. Your deck's doing its thing, and you're going to start humming, and you get that permanent land advantage, which is so nice.
Yeah, and if you didn't go first, it feels even better because now you're turn 3. You play it, get the thing, then play your land. Now you have another 2 lands to use, and then you're untapping with potentially the most mana on the field, depending on what the ramp looks like.
Just with this thing.
The next one is an absolute super staple of the format, Blasphemous Act. Everyone knows this card is amazing. $2.80 currently, so around $3. Blasphemous Act, we already know how good it is. 13 damage to all creatures. It basically always costs 1 mana. This card is one of the best board wipes in the whole format, and it's only $2.80. 100%. You should get them now. They've been being printed in precons. We don't know how long something will stay in precons or won't stay in precons because they could do a year where it's in precons, and then this year it's not, and all of a sudden it's back up to $5, $6, $7, $8. Card's amazing.
We don't have to tell you that this is the best red board wipe in the format. It can't get cheap enough to where you're like, oh man, I got screwed on that deal. Maybe at $7 it can. Not at $2.80. Oh, you pick it up and it drops to a penny. Whatever. Like that's really not that big of a deal in as long as you have any disposable income at all. So $2.80. I'm snapping them all up. Let's give me some Blasphemous Acts for all my future red decks.
Is the best red board whip in the format worth $3? Not only is it worth $3, it's one of the best buys in the format right now.
How many of the best of its type cards can you get for less than $5 nowadays?
It's not many.
Like none. We were stoked about swords, and we're stoked about this.
Yes. So moving on, we have Idol of Oblivion, $1.50. This is a 2-mana artifact that says if you have created a token this turn, tap it to draw a card. It has some flavor text about making a 10/10.
I think that part's cool.
But you can make a 10/10 with it, but basically, this card is just if you're making tokens, you can consistent flow stream of tokens. You can draw a ton of cards with this.
I've been very impressed with this card, and it has become a big threat at the table when it resolves. Nobody is sleeping on it anymore. Cherry's always is like, he's gonna draw a bunch of cards with that. Get ready, and I always draw a bunch of cards with it if it survives. White decks and red decks, especially if you're making treasures, tokens, you have to be making tokens, obviously. So once you have a steady stream, I think this card's amazing. Now, I could see a comparison to Ferexian Arena. There is a huge difference between this card and Ferexian Arena, which is that this card costs 2 colorless, so 1 less mana, less pips, there's no pips, and it draws a card right away. So you have an Elvish Visionary virtually, because when you decide to put this down, you've made a token. Replace itself right away, that's your floor, you're done, you got your card back. Next turn, the first turn after, you're up a card, and you're already super stoked about it.
Yeah, I want to say that any effect, and I've noticed this on other cards as well, that draw right away on the first turn they're out, rather than the second turn, than going a whole turn around the table to draw a card, are way better.
Biggest difference in the world.
Even for, like, you can just compare, like, Prosper to Ferexian Arena. Prosper draws 1 card a turn, but he draws one right away. And I know there's more text in that card. Obviously, that card does a lot of things. But that is one of the things that takes it from, like, it would be okay to it's a great, great Magic card.
Yeah, that's why Ferexian Arena is so slow, and then this thing is great and runs away with games potentially if you just get so far ahead on cards.
I mean, it's a whole turn faster.
Next is a really unique card because it's one of the only handful of Magic cards that ever have existed that can play 2 roles at the same time.
Yes. So a lot of combos require a sack outlet. It's a sack outlet. And a lot of combos require the payoff for that sack outlet if you're doing some combos. Guess what? We have Alter Dementia, which we've talked about before, but that's not what we're talking about here. Goblin Bombardment is $1. If you're playing a red aristocrat sack, any type of deck that has lots of things to throw around and fling, Goblin Bombardment is going to be one of the best sack outlets in your whole deck.
If you're going wide on creatures and you don't even necessarily care about sacrificing, you should still play this. It is very, very good to always have the option to do something with your creatures, no matter what's going to happen with them, and to ensure that they hit the graveyard. You don't have to reanimate them. You don't have to care about that. You don't have to care about combos. If you're like a go wide goblins deck, you should still play this. It is very, very useful.
This is how you beat the fool who's got propaganda on this side.
Yeah.
You got propaganda over there? Okay, I made 100 tokens. Oh, I can't attack you to death? All right, Goblin Bombardment, you're dead.
This is one of the reasons attacking isn't that good. There's just so many ways around it. It's my sack outlet. It's my 2-drop.
Especially, well, protecting yourselves from attack is extra bad.
Right.
I mean, attacking is obviously a strong thing to do, and it does help kill a lot of players. But, like, protecting yourself from attacking, it's like, well,
why?
I'll just go around it.
It's like Oblivion ringing my combat step. It's like, I'll just destroy it and then get my combat step. But this is, you know what? Actually, this is so much better than propaganda at protecting yourself from attacks. No one's going to send their 2/1 unblockable, their 3/3 flyer at you. You're just going to mow it down. You just have to give them the look like, you're attacking me? And they have to go like, no.
All right. I liked your description there. All right. Almost done here. 2 more to go. Flawless Maneuver is next. Currently $13. Now, 6 months ago, we told you to buy, what was it?
Deadly Relic.
Deadly Relic, which is the black version of the card in the cycle. It gets rid of a creature. Now, this is a little weaker. Well, not a little. This is a lot weaker. That being said, it's a 0 mana interaction spell in Commander. Oh, I am so in. You're going to see us on an upcoming episode of Gameplay where it's such a blowout. This card is a blowout every single time. Having this card for 0 mana is so good.
I think it's the highest impact. It's not the best card in the cycle, but I think it's the highest impact card in the cycle, and it gets to the point where if they know you have it and they have a board wipe like a Day of Judgment or a Blasphemous Act, they could go, well, if I play this and he has Flawless Maneuver, it doesn't do anything. But if I don't play it, it doesn't do anything because I didn't play it. So you're just in this like impossible scenario and you got to really work around it, or just the fact that it exists will make your life more difficult. And then when they have it, I may have had it once or twice in a few games we played, is obnoxiously strong. You're like, how about those plans of yours? They still looking good? And they go, mm-mm.
Yeah, this card is dead more often than your Deadly Swats, or Deadly Relics, Deflecting Swats, and Fierce Guardianship. It's dead more often than those ones. But like you said, when it isn't dead, it's an insane blowout.
And it won't hit every board wipe, too. It's some of our favorites and some of the best in the format. It won't hit. So pick your battles with what you want to include. Maybe you like Eerie Interlude better if you're a Blink deck. But I think if you're a tap out, put a bunch of power on the board and hope to untap, you kind of need this card either way.
Yeah, Flawless Maneuver, $13. I don't see that cycle getting reprinted too much going forward. So you should pick up them all, but a lot of them are expensive, so I'm not going to. I understand if you're avoiding, Deadly Relic now at $30.
And I am going to put a pin in this for the tidbit, which I have already decided. So stay tuned for the tidbit. But number 20, this last card here, we've definitely talked about it on our Is It Worth Buying series, which the answer was yes. But here we're going to get into more detail. It's Greater Good, sitting at $2. Another stack outlet, but it translates into card draw and borderline feels into me when you start drawing enough cards, because if I have 3 cards in my hand and then I draw 5 more, now I get to discard whatever I want. It's like I get to discard the cards in my hand that I didn't even have before this whole process started, and it's just you're seeing so many cards.
This is one of those weird cards that I don't see a lot, and then some people put it in their casual type decks, and it's insane in like a casual deck. This card feels like it should be a card that's like people are like, all right, yeah, when we play our casual decks, we steer away from it because it's so insane. Card is bonkers. I don't know how this card is $2. This card is a game-winning enchantment.
It will just steal the game. There's nothing to do once it hits. You go to answer it. All right, I'll sack my biggest creature, get like a 7 for 1. Oh, you go to kill my creatures. Cash them all in, baby. Anything that's a 3 power or more is a complete free roll with this card.
Yeah, a complete free roll. And anything that's less isn't even that bad. If the decks you're putting this in, you're not going to care. I'll sacrifice my 2 power thing.
Discard my Titan that I can reanimate next turn.
Yeah, exactly. Discard 3 cards that I don't care because I'm going to reanimate them. This card is so so good in so many different decks.
It has a lot of stuff going for it. If you have some kind of static effect that's pumping your creatures, oh baby, there's nothing they can do, because once you queue in enough cards, it just doesn't matter. They can wipe the board every turn. They can do all this stuff. You're just going to assemble a victory before anyone else.
And almost always, this is a graveyard strategy card. Like, this does go in graveyard strategies more than anything else. So you don't care. It's like, I'll draw all these cards and like, oh, look, I have 20 cards in hand. Guess what? At my hand step, I'll discard the rest of those too. I don't even care.
And how many scenarios are there where you untap with this? Nobody kills it. Maybe they can't. Maybe they won't because they don't know what they're doing. But you untap with this, you have a couple creatures in play, and you go, all right, I need to reanimate one of my creatures to win the game. I get to look at 20 cards this turn. Can I find my reanimate, animate dead necromancy? Probably. Let's go. Dig 20 cards, reanimate my Protean Hulk, win the game.
Yeah. So for $2 only, get your greater goods. But that is our video. That's the end of this video. We'll come back to this in 6 months. Yeah. Get ready, July, people, for when we get back to this video.
We also have a second edition that we've already done that will be reviewed sooner, but
June.
Yes.
Yes. So special shout outs to all of our patrons. Love you guys all as much as we can without making you uncomfortable. Thank you all for the support. Guess what? Tomorrow's video is going to be a tune-up for one of you. Actually, it's for Zach Fro. Hi, Zach Fro. How you doing?
You can go to the TCG player link in the description, Zach, and anyone else. Buy the cards you were going to buy anyway through the link, and you support the channel. It's that easy. It's like throwing money that you didn't earn into a tip jar.
You're going to go buy the cards, spend the same amount of money, because they're magic cards. You want magic cards. You want all the magic cards.
All these magic cards.
Yes, every single one that we just listed. You're going to buy them all. You started with a link. We get a kickback. You're supporting the best channel in the universe.
Dragon Shield, the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
They have custom sleeves that are some of the only playable custom sleeves I've ever seen. They are absolutely amazing. We have like thousands of them, and I would recommend you go buy them along with any regular sleeves you want.
Yeah, we have been using Dragon Shields for what, 10 years now?
A decade. Since I was a wee lad.
I remember when I first started playing Magic, they didn't even have matte sleeves yet. They only had gloss. And I remember the store owner of the store I went to, he goes, the best sleeves you can buy, it's Dragon Shields. I suggest putting them on all your decks. And I took that, and I have not regretted it since then. I still put them on every one of my decks.
You remember the old glossy sleeves? I feel like they did this with more than any other sleeve. Now it's all matte, but when you stacked your brand new commander deck and it just goes...
Oh, it goes...
Every time. Just falls right over.
Yeah, the gloss sleeves would do that.
They're so slippery.
Oh, my God. I mean, I can't use gloss sleeves. I've said this before. I sweat, and they would get those, like, dirt marks on them very easily. And they were easy to clean
little
off.
Specks of dirt. I remember getting my thumbnail and just scraping them off. So many times Kid Beezy did that.
That doesn't well, there's a couple reasons that might not happen to us anymore. One is we switch sleeves a lot more often. And I mean, back in when I first started playing Magic, I mean, I was 20. I wasn't like exactly young, but 20 years old, I wasn't buying sleeves.
I was 13. Couldn't even go buy sleeves.
I mean, I was using the same sleeves for 2-3 years. I mean, now my decks, it's like 6 months. I'm like, all right, Brendan, give me new sleeves.
All right, so the tidbit. We talked about the free cycle of Ikoria things. Now, I think they're all fantastic, with one glaring exception. Obscuring Haze is just poop. Like, I don't think fogs are good in Commander, and I don't think there's like any reason to play that card. There may be like a fog, the Pillow Fort decks are like, I want to play fog because I like fog. Then it's amazing. It might be one of the best fogs in the format. It doesn't even prevent your creature's combat damage. Here's what today I bought 20 of them. We don't talk about speculation like ever on the channel, and this whole video wasn't even speculation. But I went in and I just speculated on Obscuring Haze. I'm like, I could easily see, since I don't foresee these being reprinted, and I don't think they're going anywhere, and they can't be beat price wise, 0 mana. I could foresee some stupid commander coming out that just hikes this bad boy way up because nobody cared about it, nobody respected it. So I'm like, when that happens, I have 20 of them.
The Fog Commander?
Yeah, when there's a Fog Commander, it's like whenever you prevent damage, deal 100 damage.
Oh, whenever an effect, a spell or effect you control prevents damage,
deal it back.
Deal that much damage to something. Like that seems like a plausible commander that could absolutely exist.
Yeah, so that's my goofy spec of 2022. We'll see if that pans out.
I kind of like that. It's even more interesting if it works, the spells, because if it's fog would work really insane with that fake commander we just made up. You just attack with your creatures, they block them all. You fog, and now you get all this damage to throw around. Now that sounds like a 6-mana 6/6 commander where you can't have it too cheap.
Pay for the cost, like that Jarl, the Frost Giant thing, where it's like, oh, I can't even read this card. 7 mana.
All right, thanks for watching, guys. Peace out, Tribe Scouts.